We've gone from an administration that ran on a anti-crypto to one that's running on a pro-crypto army. You've gone from a head of the SEC who wouldn't meet Brian Armstrong, who's the biggest CEO of the biggest exchange in the US, to Trump wanting to meet Brian Armstrong. All the puzzle pieces have just fallen for the most bullish 4 years ahead for crypto. This is the very, very, very beginning of a retail run.
Ron Neuner joins the program once more. He's a host of Crypto Banter. Welcome back, Ron. A lot of things are pumping. Let's talk about Bitcoin first. So 100,000 Bitcoin, it just is elusive. 94,000 is today's level. It's oscillating between 94 and 89. And it's just a matter of whether or not it's going to break out to the downside or upside. What is the market waiting for right now? Welcome back, by the way.
So first of all, am I surprised about the 94,000? I thought we would be at 100,000 already. There's a lot of things happening. I mean, if we look at the Bitcoin chart, I think the Bitcoin chart tells a story. So if you give me a second here, that is my screen. You can see the Bitcoin chart. And in fact, let's just actually go to the Bitcoin USD chart. I think that's where you see the best view. So if you look at the daily chart on Bitcoin, what you realize is that you're getting into some kind of parabola over here. And the parabola actually, we broke out of a 7-month downtrend on the elections, on the thought of Trump actually being elected. On the 5th of November, which is the election day, people realized that, it could have gone either way. It could have gone back into the downtrend if Kamala won and, up if Trump actually landed up winning. And that's when the market actually started to go parabolic. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, well, why? Well, if you look at the kind of noises that are happening right now, we've gone from an administration that ran on a anti-crypto army in Elizabeth Warren to one that's running on a pro-crypto army. You've gone from a head of the SEC who wouldn't meet Brian Armstrong, who's the biggest CEO of the biggest exchange in the US, to Trump wanting to meet Brian Armstrong. You've got people that have been nominated as the head of the SEC, which are all very, very, very pro-crypto. You've got a Secretary of Commerce, which has been appointed, who is very, 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 very pro-crypto. And so it feels like all the puzzle pieces have just fallen for the most bullish 4 years ahead for crypto. And this is coming out of an environment where we've gone through probably what were the 4 most abusive years for crypto people in the United States. That's the first thing. The second thing that people don't realize as to why we're getting so much pump today is because what we had, let me just share my screen so that you can actually look at it.
Yes.
What we had is we had the launch of IBIT Bitcoin futures, IBIT Bitcoin options yesterday, right? And those IBIT Bitcoin options, effectively how they work is if you've got more buyers of calls than buyers of puts, then the market makers have to hedge the risk. And they hedge the risk by buying the underlying, right? So if I buy one option, the market maker has to go and then buy the underlying to hedge the option, right? And so in a bull market, when you get the ratio of put to calls that looks something like that, then there is a lot of buying pressure which gets put onto the underlying asset. And so we couldn't have had a better launch, or we couldn't have had this launch at a better time, because now what you're getting additional pressure coming onto the market. And then you've got this maniac called Michael Saylor who just carries on raising and raising and raising more money to buy more Bitcoin. I mean, he was going to raise $1.75 billion, and investors he had so much demand that he actually raised it to $2.6 billion. And he's working on a $42 billion plan to buy Bitcoin. And that's why MicroStrategy is actually now at session highs or at season highs. So when you put all those things together, you've got like this perfect storm of bullish news for Bitcoin. And yeah, I mean, really bullish. And I think for people who've been watching our shows or people that have been following us for a while, we anticipated this in case of a Trump win. We got the Trump win. And I think now we're going to carry on going, I think, up.
And I think it's important you use the word Bitcoin. You said it's bullish news for Bitcoin. You didn't use the word for crypto overall. Let's evaluate that. Ethereum is not at its all-time high. In fact, year to date, it's nowhere near its all-time high. And like Bitcoin, if you look at some of the Bitcoin miners like Marathon, Bitcoin was trending up in the last couple of weeks. It's trending down. And so the rest of the market, to a crypto ecosystem, barring a few exceptions, Doge, XRP, altcoins, a few meme coins. It just doesn't seem to be gaining as much traction. The Bitcoin dominance chart is going up. It's above 60% now, as you know. So is this really a crypto narrative, or is this a Bitcoin only narrative?
I'm so glad you asked this because it gives me a feel for what people are thinking about that are not in crypto full time,
Yeah.
not as degen dirty as we like to think we are. So this happens every cycle. Bitcoin always runs first every single cycle. And the altcoins only run when you get to a point where you truly believe that this time is going to be different and it's going to be a Bitcoin only run. And that's when the scorpion stings you with his tail and then everything moves into altcoins.
Yeah.
And so having been around for 4 cycles, this is my 4th, I can quite confidently say that this is absolutely normal. I mean, the one thing that maybe is a little bit abnormal is that Ethereum has been a bit of a laggard this cycle. I mean, it's been pretty dead. And I think, which to me is a bit strange, especially because Ethereum is the only other crypto with an ETF in the United States. So if people want to deploy capital in the United States, institutional capital, and they can't hold underlying assets or they can't hold the actual digital securities, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be buying Bitcoin. When they think the returns on Bitcoin are too high, they're going to start moving some money into Ethereum. I know this because that's how I got in. And Dave, I'm almost sure that that's how you got into all the altcoins. If you're in any of the altcoins, you started with Bitcoin and then you were like, okay, this thing's, run a lot. Maybe I should now get into ETH. So I think right now it's a Bitcoin run. I wouldn't be over indexing on the altcoins, but I would be starting to make investments in the altcoins because I know that the inevitable altcoin run is going to arrive.
Before we continue with the video, let me tell you about a growing threat and risk to your personal safety that you should be aware of. Over the last decade, politically motivated online threats have surged, especially around recent election cycles. With the conclusion of the 2024 presidential election, concerns around personal information exposure remain critical. Today, 3 in 4 voters fear political violence fueled by how easily personal information like phone numbers, home addresses, etc., can still be found online. That's where today's sponsor, Delete Me, comes in. Delete Me removes your personal information from hundreds of data broker websites, helping you stay safer online. Using Delete Me is simple. Submit your personal information for removal, and within 7 days, you'll receive a privacy report showing where your data was found and removed. Delete Me continues to monitor and remove your information throughout the year, keeping you protected long-term. For 20% off all U.S. consumer plans, go to joindeleteme.com/DavidLin and use the promo code DavidLin at checkout, or scan the QR code on the screen to get started. Link also down below. Take control of your online privacy with Delete Me today. Okay, let's talk about the altcoins first before moving back to macro. Let's take a look at Doge as an example. It's already run up. Is it a matter of just selling the news at this point because we've already priced in, in Doge's case, the Department of Government Efficiency that's been announced, and ever since that was announced, it just Doge went up in a straight line about 3 times. Yeah.
I mean, when I look at Doge, this looks like a very unhealthy chart to me. This is not usually the type of chart.
You want to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm doing it now. There we go. So when I look at this chart, it's not the typical chart that I like to buy. In fact, to be honest, I'd probably avoid this right now and I'd wait for a correction. One thing about crypto is that in bull markets, you have a lot of corrections. In 2016 and 2017, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 corrections on the run-up, which were all over 30%. And what you'll realize about these corrections is that they are very steep on Bitcoin, but if you're holding altcoins, the charts the dips are even more scary. And if you're holding meme coins, which fundamentally have zero value, they're going to have the worst dips. And so for me, what I'm doing now in this all-time high period is I'm actually starting to accumulate cash. So I'll show you what I'm doing. I've built this thing called the Cash-O-Meter, and I'm trying to get my portfolio into 30% cash for when the inevitable dip comes so that I can buy all these meme coins and altcoins. Right now, I'm on about 8. I think this correction happens in the next 4 to 8 weeks. Could happen slightly before, but I think the next 4 to 8 weeks. And when that correction comes, I want to have cash to be able to buy it. And so I'm starting to accumulate money now. I know that in times when there is extreme greed in a market, you want to be selling and you want to be accumulating cash, and you want to be buying when there's extreme fear. And so I'm playing that game. Obviously, I'm not touching my fundamental portfolio. This is just, the trading portfolio that I'm starting to get a little bit more into cash.
What's your most bullish theme or use case going forward? Is it stable coins? Is it B2B transactions? Is it applications to build meme coins on, aka Solana? Is it gamify? DeFi? Is it AI? What are you paying attention to?
So my most bullish thesis is the one that we just keep creating new use cases that we never knew existed. So, up until now, it's been store of value and digital dollar, and long may that last. And then we launched this thing called meme coins, which people don't really kind of understand. Like, how is there value in a meme coin? Now, you can look at meme coins as multiple things. The first thing is you can say, well, meme coins have no value. That's cool. But casino chips also have no value until you're sitting at the table and your cash is backed behind them. And it's exactly the same thing, right? It's like we've created a casino of attention. And this casino of attention has done a lot of things. But the one thing two things that it's done that are very important. One is it has shown us that we can create a casino out of attention, a global casino out of attention, which is like, that's a use case in itself, right? The second thing that it has done is it has allowed us to build brands, global brands, in a very, very, very short period of time. Like, I would argue that Doge is probably now a bigger brand than some of the big brands. I would argue that Dog Wolf Hat and that Popcat and all those memes are now extreme brands. And the reason why these brands are so loved is because the power of a brand is in the affinity that the brand in the brand affinity of the brand, right? And brand affinity is actually a chemical process in your brain, which is a chemical called oxytocin. And that chemical oxytocin creates connection between you and anything, and a brand and a brand or a human. It's the connection hormone. And what we've created is we've created a game that's so high in dopamine and oxytocin that people are becoming connected to these brands, like they become connected to a football club. Yeah, right? Like, you start off with a football club, it releases oxytocin in your brain, you become more and more connected. And so we've created a platform that allows people to build brands at the speed of light with huge brand affinity because people are connected to them through making money. So, that's another use case that we've created. I'll give another use case that has been created: prediction markets. Like, we've never been able to bet on prediction markets of outcomes of elections and stuff like that so easily and so freely around the world. And now there's a new application which is called opinion markets, which is a prediction without an endpoint. So it's an opinion. It's like things like, who do you think's hotter, Rihanna or Taylor Swift? And you can vote, but there's no endpoint, right? So you can actually follow the price at a certain point in time. Now, all of these are new applications, global applications that have been created by this wonderful technology called blockchain. And what we've proven is that blockchain can create new industries that rely on value, which is a huge technological breakthrough. I would argue that it's probably a bigger technological breakthrough than the internet was, because the internet allowed us to send data. This allows us to send data and value in the same packet, which is massive.
There needs to be money for the casino, though. Right now, the data suggests that the retail investors are still not back in the same volume as they were in 2021. This could be due to a number of factors. We don't have the stimulus checks anymore. People are more concerned about losing their job than gambling or investing. I'll let you evaluate.
So let me show you what I see when it comes to retail. The first thing is, we know that retail aren't naturally part of the beginning of a cycle. It takes a while to get the retail investor back into a cycle. Bear in mind, we've been in a 7-month downtrend, which was long, 7 months, over 200 days of downtrend. Let's we could just measure it. We were in a 250-day downtrend. And only 2 weeks ago did we break out of that downtrend, believe it or not. And so you can't expect retail to come in the first 2 weeks. What we are seeing now is we're seeing retail coming back. And the reason why I know this is because if you look at the tokens that have run in the last week, these are what we call the dinosaur tokens. Stellar Lumens, Algorand, HBAR, Tezos, XRP, Cardano. These are all the old tokens. And so what's going on now is that retail are looking at this and going, we want to be in crypto. And they're coming in with the coins that they know and the coins that they have access to on the trading platforms, which are platforms like Robinhood. And they are not as up to date as the crypto native people of what's actually going on. And so these are clear. No one in crypto would ever in their right mind buy Cardano, like just so you're clear. But the retail investors are coming in and actually buying Cardano because they don't know what's happened in the last 3 years, and they don't know that there's new coins that have come in with better technology, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think we're now at the beginning of a retail run. And that's why I think this is the very, very, very beginning of a retail run.
Okay, I'm going to read for you a few headlines, and I'd just like to get you to respond to some of these headlines. This is from CoinDesk. So, Dogecoin XRP trading volume flips Bitcoins in South Korea. The summary here, XRP and Dogecoin have seen significantly higher trading volumes than Bitcoin on South Korean exchanges. While South Korean trading frenzy might indicate market froth, XRP price stability above $1 suggests potential for further gains. We talked about Doge, right? XRP also went up in a straight line for different reasons than Doge, presumably. But yeah, this is interesting. Well, how do you feel about XRP?
I'm not a big fan. I think it's one of these old coins. I have a principal issue with how XRP is run. It is a token which is sold by a centralized company to fund the operations of a centralized entity where the gains are not shared with the token holders, but they're shared with the equity holders. And to me, that just doesn't make sense. So I avoid XRP. But again, why are people buying XRP? They're buying XRP because it's an old coin. Everyone knows it. Everyone has access to it. And when people come to the market and they want exposure to crypto, they're going to buy XRP. Because I don't know any better.
This is a headline I've been seeing pop up. ETH has fallen out of investor favor. I think I mentioned ETH earlier as an example of something that hasn't caught up with Bitcoin. But the narrative is that ETH is losing relevance for a variety of reasons. If you want to build applications on meme coins, you have things like Solana. You want a hard store of value, there's things like Bitcoin. If you want, the real degen coins, well, you've got the real degen coin. ETH isn't even one of them. I don't know. What's ETH's future for you?
So look, ETH hasn't been a great performer this cycle. The ETH technology and the ETH technology is slow, it's expensive. And what we're noticing on the cycle is that Solana is the new ETH because Solana can actually do everything that you can do on ETH much faster and much at a fraction of the cost. And so ETH has fallen out of favor. Am I a big ETH fan? No, I'm much, much, much more a Solana fan. I hold a small position in ETH. I think it's because I'm emotionally attached to it. I don't really see any reason to be holding ETH other than the fact that there is a thing called Coinbase. And Coinbase run the predominant layer 2 on Ethereum called the base chain. And that to me may be the future of ETH, which is Coinbase's client base onboarding onto chains and using the base chain as the entry point. And so am I bullish on ETH? 5 out of 10. Whereas, my conviction around Solana is like an 8 or 9 out of 10.
Okay. So, but that rests on the assumption that meme coins will continue to pump.
Well, if it's not meme coins, it's any other form of digital value, whether it's social coins, AI coins, it doesn't really matter, right? Cheap coins which are cheap to move around is amazing, right? Like that's the ultimate in blockchain. And Solana is basically delivering that vision or that dream. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Solana. I'm not the biggest fan of ETH, unfortunately.
This really goes back to the core thesis of what Bitcoin is versus what the rest of the cryptos are. Because if you take a look at something like ETH and you just described why it's in this current state that it is, well, it's being supplanted by a superior technology. Arguably, there are many superior technologies in the crypto space to Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin market cap is still dominant. Why?
So Bitcoin has network effects. Plus, I'm not sure that there are other technologies that are superior to Bitcoin's for the use case of what Bitcoin is used for. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin is around storing of value, and the storing of value doesn't need to be cheap or lightning fast. Cash needs to be cheap and lightning fast, but like moving gold around, that doesn't need to be cheap and lightning fast. In fact, in the traditional world, moving a bar of gold around could take you a couple of days, weeks, or months. And so I think for the technology for the use case of what Bitcoin is the ultimate technology. It's not fast, it's not cheap, but it's the ultimate security for what you need it to do. When it comes to ETH is about lightning speed and smart contracts. And it didn't get the same network effect and head start that Bitcoin got before a competitor did something a lot better. And so that's why I'm like, my holdings of Solana are probably 8-1 on my ETH holdings. And, I plan to keep it that way.
I remember in 2021 when I started doing crypto interviews, and things started blowing up in the altcoin space, people were talking about, and I remember asking questions about this ETH flipping Bitcoin, XYZ thing flipping Bitcoin. ETH was the number one candidate to flip Bitcoin at the time. Anyway, the ETH Bitcoin ratio has been dropping ever since, and so that narrative has kind of died out for now. Anything else on the radar for you that could be the next thing that could flip Bitcoin's market cap?
I don't know if anything's going to flip Bitcoin. Not in the foreseeable future, that's for sure. If there are any horses in the race, I guess Solana is probably that horse. But it's not a good comparison. It's like if you take a gold chart and you compare the market cap of gold to any other company in the world. Gold has a bigger market cap than any other company in the world, And so like I don't think you can compare a store of value to a protocol which is used every single day. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think I was also one of those people who in the last cycle thought that maybe ETH would flip Bitcoin, but the rollout of ETH was a bit of a disappointment, and they're acting like a very heavy corporate versus a very heavy corporate versus the speed and dynamic nature of Solana, which is acting very much like a startup.
This article here, this is an opinion piece, of course, but Bitcoin at 100K, no longer a dream, believe traders, but blow off top, warning in near term. Okay, traders are expecting the potential for 100K Bitcoin has been fueled by anticipated U.S. regulatory changes. We talked about some of that already. But it looks like this article explains how people are expecting some sort of sell-off to happen at 100K, not the catalyst for a bigger boom. QCP expects to run to 100K, nearly 10% high in the coming months, and then mark of a general altcoin season. What are you expecting once Bitcoin hits 100K?
Well, look, I think 100K is a psychological level, right? Like I think that like 100K is a psychological level. So I think what's going to happen, and if you allow me to share my screen again, is
yes,
I think we're going to hit the 100K. But then I think it's pretty normal to have these 25 or 30% pullbacks. And we had 6 or 7 of them in 2016 and 17. In 2020, 2021, we also had 5 or 6 of them. So it's pretty normal in the Bitcoin world to have big, sharp corrections. And how much more so when you've got an option market overlaid on a Bitcoin market, which is trading gamma. So to me, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. That is why I'm starting to accumulate cash. That's why I'm 8% in cash, targeting 30% in cash in the next 4 weeks. I suspect the correction comes just before the inauguration. So sometime between now and January, I suspect the crash comes. And I think, I'm not going to sell any of my core holdings, but I am going to reduce my leveraged holdings, and I'm going to reduce my trading holdings, and I'm going to be sitting on a pile of cash. So when that inevitable dip does come, I'm ready to capitalize on it.
You're not concerned about inflation anymore, Ron, if you're sitting on cash?
I mean, I'm sitting on cash short term because I'm expecting the market correction to happen, but in the next 4 to 8 weeks. So even in 4 to 8 weeks on a 4% or 5% annualized yield, I'm losing nothing. Like you're talking about, like Bitcoin is up today in 1 day 3%. It's like you're talking about small money in the big scheme of things.
You're expecting a pullback, of correction. What kind of correction are we talking about? Are we talking about 2022?
20%. Okay. 20%. Like I think Bitcoin goes back to $75,000-$80,000.
Okay. And then at that point, you're going to be deploying back into Bitcoin or more into the alts?
No, more into the altcoins. So my Bitcoin position is pretty okay. Mm-hmm. I take profits into Bitcoin and I trade on the altcoins. So whatever money I make on altcoins, I take the profits, I put the profits into Bitcoin. That's pretty much how I trade.
The altcoins, are they still following Bitcoin mostly right now, or are they moving on their own right now?
Not as much. So they are following. Of course, Bitcoin goes up, altcoins, but Bitcoin goes up a lot, altcoins go up a little. Bitcoin goes down a little, altcoins go down a lot. It's a weird relationship that they have at the beginning of the cycle. It's nothing to get excited about or stressed about. It's absolutely, absolutely normal. And that's why I'm sitting here so relaxed in my altcoin and my Bitcoin positions. I've seen this movie before, and it's not something that phases me at this stage of the game. I've seen it. And this time won't be different, sir.
One last headline I want to read to you. So going back to Trump, Trump is set to consider crypto lawyer Teresa Gurigurian to lead SEC. She was previously a partner at a law firm, Baker Hostler, and co-lead of his blockchain team. Okay, people are very happy. People in the crypto space are very happy about this potential change. Of the changes that the Trump administration planned to make in regards to cryptos and Bitcoin, the SEC chair being one of them, which are you most looking forward to, and which would have the actual biggest impact on cryptos?
So I'm trying to find you a poll of let me just see SEC. I just want to see if I can get you a poll so I can show you the prediction who will Trump. Okay, so let's just quickly, I'm looking for the SEC one. Who will Trump pick as?
Yeah, there's been a number of candidates. Potential.
Yeah, there are a number of candidates. Every single one of the candidates is pro crypto. So one of them is Hester Peirce.
Yeah,
we know her as crypto mom. She's the current commissioner in the SEC.
Yeah.
You've got the lady that you just mentioned who's very, very, very pro crypto. You've got Brian Brooks, who was the ex-CEO of Binance US. And he used to be at the OCC, and he was very, very, very pro crypto. He's testified in front of Senate and Congress about crypto. So, I mean, you're asking me about which of the picks is the most exciting for me. I'm just the most excited that Gary Gensler's out, because I think that he's been the devil for the crypto market. And I think that, to go from the extreme negative to the extreme positive is like it's the best case scenario.
Wait, what's the legality of firing the SEC chair? Because I bring this up because I don't know. The Federal Reserve Chair Powell was asked this question at the last FOMC meeting. It's like, well, if Trump asked you to leave, would you go? It's like, no, not permitted under the law.
I'm not a legal expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that Gary Gensler kind of knows that he's out. And Trump said on day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. And I have a feeling that he's going to stick to his promise. So I believe Gary Gensler will be out almost immediately. In fact, I almost believe that Gary Gensler will retire before Trump gets into office to save himself the humiliation. He's definitely gone. I don't know if you want, I think he could save himself the humiliation by just tapping out. And recently he made a speech which almost sounded like a farewell speech. I don't know if you got wind of that speech, but it just sounded a little bit like a farewell speech.
Yeah, he said it's been an honor to serve the SEC. I found that kind of odd because he's still there. But okay, well, so final question: which of the broader changes, not just replacing the SEC chair, which of the broader changes do you expect to have the most impact? The Bitcoin strategic reserve, the changes in regulation, the SEC chair change.
It's a package. None of them are unique. I think the one that is the most exciting is the Bitcoin strategic reserve.
Is he actually going to do that, Ron? I mean, we talked about that last time. But,
well, let's just talk about this for 1 second. And, maybe it's outrageous to think like this, but let's just go through it. So you have Trump, who mentioned once in a speech, he said, I may just pay back the debt using Bitcoin. I don't know if you ever saw that speech. And, maybe it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but just think about a world like this. If the US starts buying up 1 million Bitcoin, which is what Cynthia Loomis says, and as soon as they do, you get other nations following, right? And then you get like nations following the US, and that drives up the price even more. Now you've got the US with a $36 trillion debt, but on the other hand, they've got an asset on their balance sheet, a hard asset on their balance sheet, which is increasing in value, which will then give the US the ability to borrow more or to lend more because they could collateralize the debt with their Bitcoin, right? And so they'd be allowed to take more and more and more and more debt. And so, look, it is far-fetched, but it's definitely the most exciting thing that I've ever heard, because if it does happen, you could get a situation where Bitcoin does become the reserve. And, you extrapolate that a little bit further, and you could say that there'll be a new version of fiat dollars, which is actually backed by Bitcoin in reserves. It's not impossible to think that that could happen.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Ron. I know you have to go. We can follow you where?
At CryptoManRun on Twitter, or just watch my daily show on Crypto Banter. I think it's a lot of fun. We have a very big community. We have over 1 million people. We have a lot of fun. And we're on a mission to build the most profitable community in the world. So yeah, if that sounds good to you, CryptoManRun on Twitter and Crypto Banter on YouTube.
Yeah,
links below.
Yeah, they're great resources for crypto investors and traders. Links below. Absolutely right. Thank you very much, Ron. Appreciate your time. We'll speak again soon. Take care.
Thank you so much, love.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow Ron. Links down below.